Very good friend. Number one, the tourist in Cuba. Cuba superstar. Superstar Cuba.
Cuba is not all about wonderful sunsets and fine tourist hotels, offering almost every sort of food imaginable in abundance, in opulent surroundings, in an attempt to bolster tourism. However, there is a darker side, a much darker side. Today's Cuba is about 50 years of communism, following the revolution in 1959, successfully led by Fidel Castro, aided by Che Guevara. When Cuba justifiably boasts of education for all, with excellent health services for all, no mention is made of a population needing to beg for soap and the bare necessities of life. A population which seems on the surface to be happy and contented, but for how long? How long will its graduates be content with menial work? How long will it suffer inadequacies in transport and scant regard for the welfare of its elderly? A Cuba which is completely state-controlled. A Cuba which in 2011 bans all forms of private enterprise and still rations its population to 2 eggs per person per week. A Cuban population whose politicians blame the USA for imposing a trade embargo in 1962, seen now by many as punitive, but the US say it will not be lifted until there is a move towards democracy and a greater respect for human rights. Tractors are few and far between, and winnowing rice is still seen done by hand. For petrol-head tourists, the embargo isn't all bad. Pre-1959 American gas guzzlers in all states of preservation are a common sight.
Take your picture to this place and come back where the bus is.
Many are taxis with pedal-powered taxi bicycles, horse-drawn taxi carriages, and motorbikes with sidecars to help people from place to place. They have a confusing array of different colours for their number plates. White, for example, is for a government minister's car and VIPs. Yellow, private. Blue, state-owned, etc. Havana and elsewhere has many fine 19th century colonial style buildings. Sadly, most are suffering from neglect, only to be replaced until the fall of Russian communism by ugly, austere tower blocks from the 1960s, like this, the Russian embassy.
Comprende lo que sufro yo. Canto, pues ya no puedo sollozar. Solo, temblando de ansiedad estoy.
From the 18th, 19th,
Todos
and beginning of the 20th century.
me miran y se van.
Go to Carson Road, because remember, Spain owns most of the things.
Si puedes tú con Dios hablar, pregúntale si yo alguna vez te he dejado de adorar.
Ernest Hemingway made his home in Cuba in 1939, first at the Ambos Mundos Hotel in Old Havana, later outside the town in Finca La Viga, where for the next 20 years he wrote his most famous novels, before returning to the States, from where he committed suicide in 1961. The Privileged, celebrating her coming of age, Cuban style. An interesting mural cleverly made from differing sands. President Batista's palace in Havana, now a museum of the revolution, clearly showing signs of the 1959 battle. Cuba is a country of mixed races, many of which cling to their native roots, like the original slaves from the Congo, now living in the town of Trinidad. The valley of Vinales, with its limestone hills dotting the landscape, reminiscent of Halong Bay in Vietnam, minus sea surrounding them. They are riddled with caves and rivers such as this.
Steps here.
Cuba wouldn't be Cuba without its cigars, and it is in this area where much of the tobacco is grown. It is first dried in thatched drying houses before being turned into the famous Havana cigars. Near the infamous Bay of Pigs is the most beautiful house in Cuba, once belonging to the son of Batista and now a restaurant.
Women and trinkets are the same the world over.
Oh well, fun over, now back to the grindstone. Taxi! Memorial at Santa Clara to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the revolution, with the icon Che Guevara standing prominently cast in 20 tons of bronze.
Sigue latiendo, porque mi tierra verdadera, pero llegará el día en que mi mano lo alcanzará. Cuando salí de Cuba, dejé mi vida, dejé mi amor.